Mamenko ahumane so na many Sevia Kuji any enkomo na anopei. Yemisa say as National Public Relation Officer no edema the Ghana Bar Association such development how is it going to help a year yen judicial sector no Sevia Otimika good morning it is saying
good morning.
Very well. And open ye that's say waje yes so. And council the kind ma yentias here the latest development and the reaction coming from the Chief Justice, the leadership herself, indicating say baby I'm reno aqua kudruno no the niswadi home no obepese de biano one Ghana for bedi nkomo na Ghana for so ate the court system no any judiciary no ase on some of the things aya a free hoba. Such initiative no people have said say I open up too much na enkrofon so ebe take advantage. Sanet here na.
Good morning again. Let me say a good initiative. Now so if it's not properly managed, people may take advantage and go for kind because once in a while as a leader no ubetima ba bontin have a kasa afa policies new programs
okay.
Even if your communicators are doing that for you, there's nothing wrong with that for you to come out once in a while to do that. Now I do not expect her to be personally doing that very frequently. And any bad initiative. Yeah.
Very well. Now, yesterday in an address, she talks about the fact that judiciary, the human interface, endorse. For that reason, to deal with the issue that has to do with corruption, it be here more set dynamic effort. Now, moving forward, at the end, the Chief Justice a year to be able to bring back the level of integrity and trust of the public. Na ebema judiciary and so akonenim.
I think I will start by saying that to be fair to everybody, members of the judiciary do not corrupt themselves. It is as the court users who attempt to corrupt them, and those who do not have that high moral standing, those of them, just a few of them, I would say, I don't think many of them are like that, fall for that. And see, this reorientation of our values because as a state, as a people, I have come to the realization say we have decided to redefine what success is by limiting it to only material possessions. And to say reorientation, even the president can never fight corruption. Nobody can fight corruption because this year no obia piscal Ghana, irrespective of where you were and when you have started working, and when there is a problem, no. And to say, reorientation. If you have integrity, that itself is an asset, no. Honor amount for them who say, okay, a better man move for it. Secondly, bribery, corruption, is problematic because I say. The giver and the taker of bribe are equally guilty. How do you fight corruption with such a law? So unless and until we do something about that law, we will not get anywhere because you can't continue to apply the same methods to fight the same problem and expect to get a different result. Because it is the taker who is guilty we can make some progress because so we say we are a public officer. Now maybe you are not even too sure whether you are being fixed. And to win now Semrano say, yeah, Midima no means me are guilty now we are guilty. Moon from my report. Because I am giving you that bribe for a purpose. And whether you have achieved it or not, because the law says I will be guilty, I won't go and report. So the takers will continue to enjoy. And this is an enemy who know. And then on the digitalization, so and you're bad. Now, so it can only go on well if you have a stable source of power and a stable source of internet. Because without that, indeed, it can work. Chief Justice has made promises, but people must also be mindful that she needs resources to carry out these reforms. And one thing I wasn't surprised during her speech, she was asking for increment in budget. So if she's asking for increment in budget to do all this and it doesn't happen, How does she do it? Because currently, no, even filing system I have over to mark or sometime back now is being improved. Over either say bank for court a most system were down, and now judicial service and capital system were down. Sometimes for 2 days. But you see, it has been improved. And see, for all this to work out, she needs the resources to carry out the reforms. Without the resources, nothing will happen. That's the truth.
Very well. Now, the Attorney General, the Honorable Godfrey Dambe, states the fact is the judiciary must equally consider, including the Chief Justice herself, the delays about in terms of prosecuting cases. I don't know, Emma, the public, loses some level of confidence in the justice system. The attrition rate, any the ekika kahuni are quite problematic. Now, she was quite emphatic in saying, to progress, Chief Justice must ensure,
Yeah, it is true. Nansu, wow, sector near Diani near Tenayejuma.
Okay.
I will be the last person to say there are no delays in our justice delivery system. But it is not as if it's intentional. Sometimes, some people too may just simply not understand how the systems work. So I think that we need to first explain to the public how the workings of the courts are. So that if you take a case to court today, you don't expect to get results just immediately because there are procedures to be observed. Maybe in observing those procedures, of course, I admit there may be some delays. I agree with that. But sometimes the impression is created as if people want results without even considering the fact that there are procedures to be followed. So we are talking about delays when procedures are followed. And see, for me, a lot of education will have to go on, and a lot of cooperation will have to come from the court users, including lawyers, because there are certain adjustments I must admit as a lawyer which are needless. And sometimes too, it happens because a client may have to give you, for instance, a document to work with. Nansu one famba, and this one famba on time. Nobody than a case on the scheduled date. And see, ye can't be. Especially corrupt aspect to do there. The Chief Justice has a Herculean task because our orientation and attitudes as a people has not changed. Unless it is changed, we forget about worshipping material wealth and begin to think about values properly. We cannot get anywhere. So she has a whole lot to do when it comes to fighting corruption.
But the Attorney General goes further to make certain recommendations. For instance, when it comes to land-related matters and our cases, the Chief Justice able to set the perimeters. For instance, any case be no air traveler, it has to do with land, should not take more than, let's say, 18 months. When it comes to marital issues or family issues, it should not take more than, for instance, maybe 6 months. When it comes to election petitions, probably it should not go beyond maybe 2 months or 3 months. Such perimeters, guide the court users in ensuring that they are working within a certain time frame. For that reason, they must respond accordingly.
I think so far we have rules governing all that, except that when cases should be completed is what is not available. But every process you file in court is guided by rules and it's time bound. Every process. And we can only improve upon that. I don't have a problem with that. But with all this, we don't need to be seeking to be in a hurry so that we truncate the process, because justice must be done and must be seen to be done. For me, anybody who files a case at the district court in this country and goes on appeal up to a level that the only time I think the person can conclude the process is to go up to the Supreme Court because it is right, provided you believe you have a case. Because there are some decided authorities in this country by the Supreme Court which started from the district court. Assuming those people had given up at the High Court or at the Court of Appeal, would they have had those precedents of law to work with? And it is a good thing. I think that the measures are already there. We just need to improve how we implement those measures. I don't think we need.
Yes, but even with this assertion, the Attorney General somehow sees it to be a little bit problematic because the original jurisdiction of the Supreme Court, is to interpret our constitution. Now, the Attorney General suggests that any case be necessary about on appeal to the Supreme Court. At least the Court of Appeal, there should be some level of finality to the issue, rather than say almost every time, we will have some other cases a travel all the way to the Supreme Court, knowing very well say and can do Court of Appeal and can enough.
Well, that one to curtail the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court can only be done by a constitutional amendment. So if you're able to do that, why not? If it's as a nation, because we are doing it the way it is now, because that is the position of the Constitution. So if we amend the Constitution to say that certain matters can only end up at the higher court at the Court of Appeal as the final level of adjudication, why not? It wouldn't be a problem. But as it is now, we are working with the laws as they are. Nobody is using or doing anything by using his own discretion. It is the law that we are applying. So if we think that going forward, we need to curtail the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court by amending the Constitution, why not?
But do you really feel, sir, maybe a Supreme Court, and how porous our political climate, I mean, it is good, sir, time to time, judiciary, ebekasa, in that context.
Well, what I think we should
in reference, the politicization of issues, especially when it comes to political issues, go before the court.
Well, I think that we should understand the Chief Justice. The Chief Justice is not doing this to discuss what goes on in the court. She is doing it purely on the administrative reforms that she intends to bring on board. So let's understand it. There is nothing wrong with the Chief Justice coming out to say that as an administrator and head of the judiciary, this is the way I want to administer the affairs of the judiciary. She would not be going to the details of cases that come before the court. She cannot do that. So we would understand it. Maybe the concern is that because this has not happened before, people think that she might be doing something to help herself. But of course, we are in Ghana. That is why I said I do not expect her to be doing this as frequent as people are thinking. She may once in a while come out to do it herself, but I expect the communication wing of the judicial service to be doing a lot more of what she intends to do.
Very well, but a classical example is what happened last week. And the Chief Justice comes to open herself up. She allowed herself for questioning. I mean, people who are journalists, ebisa questions that has to do with the Fiamopo case recently, or the bar Supreme Court, court, atnaso edia seminary. Now, when questions started coming up, they do point being the Chief Justice chose not to answer some of the questions. And these are classical examples of what people are saying. So now going forward, some of these things may expose the judiciary far too much.
I think we are all learning. Life is a learning curve. I believe from what you are saying, her next engagement will not do the same line. Because seriously speaking, I believe she mentioned that particular case and what happened in that case. That was why the issues came out. Because for me, as a PRO, if my president goes to deliver a speech, I don't expect anybody to ask him, as a PRO of Ghana Bar Association, if my president goes to deliver a speech, I don't expect any of you journalists to ask me a question outside of that speech. I will even give the ground rules. So as I am saying, because she probably mentioned that case, I wasn't at that event, but I believe she mentioned that case. That was why the questions came out. So if she had avoided mentioning that case, the questions wouldn't have come up. In any case, she was in charge. She used her discretion to have the case fixed. So I don't sincerely think that she had anything to explain to anybody. But I believe that she was just being too nice.
Interesting.
On that particular occasion, she was just being too nice.
Very well. But how do we bring back the confidence of the public in the judiciary?
All of us will have to do it. The public will have to stop trying to influence judicial officers. Because as I said, the judicial officers do not pollute themselves by way of corruption among themselves. It is us outside of them who try to approach them. I am not sure of how many judges will have the confidence or the wherewithal to demand bribe from any litigant or any court user. So unless we orient ourselves to know that we must allow our systems to work, we will continue to be this way, because we have gotten into a state where everybody or many people think that even before you apply to do something in a public institution, you must know somebody there. So they will call you, do you know somebody there before I apply? It doesn't have to be like that. So if the giver is not giving, the taker will not take. But we must change the law on corruption. Other than that, all what we are doing is tantamount to fetching water into a basket.
Very well. Piero, I'm grateful. Council.
Thank you.
All right, and that is the public relation officer, Edema, the Ghana Bar Association, Xavier Kuji, speaking to us on the latest development that has to do with judiciary. No, now, Andra, Chief Justice, her leadership, Gertrude Torkornoo, ne address where no, a home komo ana yedino now.